This is a very old laptop hard drive, and today I'm gonna use it to shiv a modern system right in the kidneys. And it works really well as a kidney shiv, like way too well. But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by Be Quiet and their light-based 500LX. The 500LX is a fish tank case that not only comes with a built-in fan hub and 4 pre-installed Lightwing LX RGB fans, but it also comes drenched in epine. Just slap a 360mm radiator in this bad boy and you can cool some powerful systems. So if you're in the market for a snazzy fish tank case with some angles, check out the Be Quiet light-based 500LX using the links down below. Now, before we get to our kidney harvesting that's definitely being sanctioned by a professional doctor, I promise, we need to build up to it. So today, we're gonna start off with a fast, modern NVMe drive, and we're gonna work our way up to the kidney shiving. Now, this is the system that we're going to be subjecting to our torture today, and we've got a Ryzen 7 5700X3D in here with 16 gigs of DDR4 running at 3200 MHz. Now, the reason why I'm not using more, faster, and newer RAM is because I don't want Windows to just have infinite space to cache stuff for responsiveness. And considering that we're currently in a post-RAM abundance era, I want to see how Windows 11 runs on just like $400 worth of RAM. In terms of graphics card, we've got an RTX 5050 in here, although that's not massively relevant. I am going to be testing a gaming scenario, but because it's hard drive based, we're testing loading times. So yeah, the 5050 shouldn't impact that too much, but it's in there. But with that, let's start off with our fast, modern M.2 NVMe drive. Now, the NVMe drive in question is this Lexar EQ790, and it's got some big numbers attached to it. Now, this is a DRAM-less drive, which means it doesn't have any of its own fast buffer, which often tends to blow out the rectum of even a fast drive's sustained write speeds and random latency. But these newer drives have tech in them that make this much less of a problem. It's kind of like a base 911. It might not be nearly as fast as a Turbo S, but on a public road it can still ruin your life in like 3 seconds. Now, for these tests, I'll install the same fresh copy of Windows 11 on all these drives. I will take note of how long the installation process takes, but I don't know how drive dependent that's going to be. I guess we'll find out today. But either way, we've got fresh Rufus DLMUD Windows 11 installs all around. Now, with the NVMe drive, the whole installation process took about 16 minutes, but the black screen installing bit after the restart took just under 3 minutes of that time. I then did some basic setting up, during which the NVMe drive reacted as snappily as a stoned 14-year-old that just heard their mom pulling up in the driveway. Which brings us to test number 1, boot speed time test. 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, that's like 26-ish seconds. Next, we're gonna do the how quickly can it open my gooning portal test. 3, 2, 1, start. That happened so quickly that I wasn't paying attention. But editor Dawid was paying attention, and we went from 0 to brain rot in 1.4 seconds. Interestingly, when it comes to Steam game download speeds, we were very much bottlenecked by my internet connection at 1 gigabit per second. But when it comes to game loading times, I decided to download No Man's Sky and time how long it took me to load into the same saved game, which with our CHAD drive took 33 seconds. I did also wander around a bit to see if there was any kind of anomalies in the gameplay, and there was quite a few stutters initially, so that is something we'll look out for on the other drives if that like stutter period lasts longer. So with that, let's replace our NVMe solid state storage with some SATA solid state storage. Now, one of the main limitations of these drives is the connectivity. The SATA 6GB limits our max theoretical performance of this drive to 600 megabytes per second, which is less than 1/10 the rated speed of this NVMe drive. So let's see how much of a real-world performance impact that has on our system. Oh, whoa, I haven't had to plug an SSD into a PC in years. It's been so long. This feels so nostalgic somehow. Like that, and then this side goes in here. There we go, we've got an SSD. I then started the Windows install process, but during the first attempt, something terrible happened. Okay, well, for that installation, I forgot to unplug the internet during the installation, which means it's not going to be a like-to-like comparison of operating system updates and whatever. So I'm having to reinstall it. That's fun. And that non-internet Windows install took 19 minutes and 38 seconds. Interestingly, the post-reboot install bit was just 1 minute and 24 seconds. So that was actually shorter than with the NVMe drive, but I don't know if that means anything. Okay, it's time for the boot speed test. So we're gonna do 3, 2, 1, start. I mean, that's very fast and very similar to what we got last time. It was actually faster than the big boy drive, which I wasn't expecting. I guess the motherboard looks for SATA devices before NVMe ones, maybe? Both of them zoom in though, and it's kind of the same with general system responsiveness. I couldn't tell a subjective difference between the two. They both just feel borderline tweaking out. Okay, now we're gonna do a Firefox launch time test. 3, 2, 1, start. I mean, it's basically the same. They were indeed essentially identical, and so were the Steam game download speeds. Interestingly, my gigabit internet connection was still the bottleneck here when it comes to how long it took No Man's Sky to download. And interestingly, both configurations also took the same 33 seconds flat to load into my save game in No Man's Sky. And then finally, in terms of stutter normalization in No Man's Sky, they were still there and they took a while to clear. It was very similar to the NVMe drive. So now we're going to replace our SATA SSD with a hard drive, which is where things should really start to slow down. Despite the fact that this hard drive actually also has a SATA 6 gigabit per second port on it. And its sequential read and write speeds are only about half as fast as the SATA SSDs, which is a much smaller jump than we saw with the previous step. But when it comes to arguably the most important stat for system responsiveness, random read and writes, the hard drive is a huge step down over the SSD. Because when a hard drive is looking for data, it needs to go and physically find it on a platter, which is a time-consuming process. A process which the SSD doesn't need to go through. So let's drop this in the system and see what happens. It's hard drive time, hell yeah. Now, when it comes to the installation time with the hard drive, it's already acting like a Benadryl overdose on this system. We've jumped to 26 minutes. And the majority of this added time comes from the post-reboot installation period. Fascinating. Then, with the install process finished, the setup process felt remarkably more sluggish. But the subjective sluggishness pales in comparison to how long the NVIDIA driver took to install. The only explanation is that Jensen was bullied by a hard drive as a child, and this is some form of retribution, because the combination of installing the NVIDIA app and the drivers took ages. I can't give you an exact figure because the driver install broke my screen capture at a point and I only noticed after the fact, but it was almost an hour. Whoa, I am so overweighting. The just driver installation process took so long. But anyway, we're gonna see how long it takes to boot now with the hard drive. I'm gonna do 3, 2, 1, start. Yeah, okay, I think we can call it there. So, well over a minute. That is a massive increase, holy crap. And it's still loading, like there's still stuff going on. Like the system's not responsive yet. Like I've right-clicked and oh, there we go, there it's happened. Now we want to do our Firefox launch test and start. I mean, that was initially very promising. I mean, almost 10 seconds. If I was driving, I would have started hooting already. Although interestingly, because of how caching works in Windows 11, when you launch it a second time, it does it as fast as the SSD and NVMe did. While downloading games, there were huge fluctuations in download speed. It would peak at about 300 megabits per second, but the speeds are as consistent as my mood after eating McDonald's. Interestingly, No Man's Sky didn't take that long to load at 47 seconds, but that's still a pretty big jump over the 30-ish seconds ends of the solid-state storage. And then the whole stutter issue is maybe a little bit worse than it was with the other options, but it's difficult to tell. This is quite a subjective test. Either way, the game was stuttery for a while. So now it's finally time for us to really ruin our system's performance with an old laptop hard drive. Now you may be thinking, Dawid, surely this is just like a smaller version of a desktop hard drive. But one of the sacrifices they have to make to get the smaller size is by reducing the platter spin rate of the hard drive. A standard desktop drive spins at 7,200 RPM, whereas a standard laptop hard drive spins at 5,600 RPM. And that, combined with the older SATA standard we have on this drive, makes this drive way slower. If you thought our random read and write speeds of about 2 on the normal hard drive was abysmal, this laptop drive barely manages a quarter of that. Oh no! Interestingly, the install process just took 2 minutes longer than the normal hard drive, and less than 1 minute of that increase is the post-restart install bit. However, when it comes to installing all of the apps after the installation, there was a massive subjective increase in system not snappiness. It felt way more lethargic than even the normal hard drive, and it made me realize that these little laptop drives may be one of the big reasons why laptops used to suck ass back in the day. Oh, and the NVIDIA driver install took even longer somehow. I left, got lunch, came back, and it was still busy installing. One start. And the boot test also didn't go great. Has it crashed? Are we supposed to like see stuff? I have a mouse cursor. Are we ever gonna get a taskbar again? Is it? Oh, there we go. I guess that counts. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I doubt it's gonna be responsive yet though.
Approximately 10 hours later.
I right-clicked 3 business days ago and it still hasn't showed up. Yeah, I don't know, taking more than twice as long as a normal hard drive to boot is kind of shocking. And Firefox was the same story. It took over 20 seconds to launch on the little loser laptop hard drive. But before we go Lenny on its ass, the game download speeds initially seemed pretty promising. Surprisingly promising, although it was even more sporadic than the normal hard drive, and we got huge spikes and dips of download speed. But don't worry, things go back to being abhorrent with the No Man's Sky loading times, with it again more than doubling the result of the normal hard drive. However, once the game loaded, it didn't feel particularly more stuttery than any of the other storage situations, and even flying from the atmosphere into space and stuff like that didn't cause any immediate issues. Although having said that, the game did never really stop being stuttery at any point. So yeah, I guess the moral of the story here is if you're using a laptop hard drive, you should probably go and ritualistically sacrifice it now. Although that might actually not be a great idea because that's just gonna piss off whatever deity you're sacrificing it to. Which brings me to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, subscribe to the channel if you liked the video, and until the next one, bye bye.